Cool. So let's look into the medium and long term now. And I gotta say, we are about to enter a decade of rapid change, massive, massive change. We're about to see a technological revolution like none other that we've seen. You know, I mean, the last 10, 20 years have been really dramatic. I mean, we've seen the rise of the smartphone and the internet and Wi-Fi. Like we kind of forget how the world was before all these things. You know, remember when we didn't have like Wi-Fi and we didn't really have the internet like that. It was kind of very basic, and our mobile phones were basic. And then now we've got all these super smartphones. We've got like Netflix. We've got whatever. We've got rather interesting innovations, but they're not even that amazing when you think about some of the innovations, some of the greatest innovations over history, such as going to space, going to the moon, inventing the internet in the first place. You know what I mean? And many other interesting things, inventing aeroplanes and starting to get into flights, getting into cars, creating cars so that we don't longer use horses and carriage and everything. So we've had some very interesting industrial revolutions and technological revolutions that have really changed the world, but nothing like what we're about to see. This is going to be the big one, okay? So super rapid and super massive, almost dizzying technological change over the next 10 years. And so let's get into that. Now, to understand how this is going to happen, we sort of have to break this down into 5 components. The first 2 components are about the foundations, okay? What are the foundations that are already in place today? So not things that are about to come in the future. Things that are already in place today, foundations that are already in place today that are going to enable this rapid and massive technological revolution, okay? Then after that, we're going to look at the innovation accelerators, because we already have certain things already today that are going to accelerate and catapult us into this 2020 to 2030 innovation era. And by the way, coronavirus is sort of like a very interesting catalyst to all this. And we'll see how. And we the only way to sort of understand how coronavirus fits into all this is when we get into when we go through the entire presentation, including all the segments in this presentation that are prepared for you. You're gonna see why coronavirus is sort of a cloud with a silver lining. It's gonna change things in ways we can't even imagine, directly and indirectly. Okay, so anyways, back to the screen. We've got the innovation accelerators. That's what you see in blue. These are things that are already with us here today that are going to help us accelerate and catapult innovation, okay? And therefore, because of the foundations, both technological and spiritual foundations, and because of these innovation accelerators, we will then be able to have this next generation of industries, okay? Now, this next generation of industries are going to cause some, obviously, very good things to happen to the planet, but at the same time, they're going to create some very interesting threats. And we have to be aware of these threats, okay? Because this is not a time to sort of sit back and hope the government gets it right, or hope that the companies keep themselves clean. These are serious threats that involve each one of us, and we have to participate in, making sure that, the downside doesn't come and bite us in the butt. Okay, so let's get in. We'll start with the technological foundations. Here we go. We already have the internet. We already have social media and social media, social connections through all these gadgets and everything that we've got that ride on the internet, which obviously means brings us to mobile. We already have mobile, okay? We already have cloud computing, okay? And cloud computing is, if for anyone who doesn't know what it is, it's the use of hardware and software, like your mobile phone, to give you certain services that are so powerful. And the only reason this is happening is because those things are happening over the cloud. In other words, like maybe Google's super powerful computers are doing the bulk of the job for you and then just giving you your results on your phone. So for example, when you use the Google Maps, or you use some of these more advanced services and apps, the processing power of your phone is already powerful, but it's also using the processing power in the cloud, on computers and networks that are not on your phone, that are connected to your phone through the internet. Those facilities are literally going to help us do amazing things, because you, an individual in a small little village somewhere, suddenly has access to massive supercomputing power through their mobile, okay? And then we've got big data. Big data is the idea of extremely large data sets that can be analyzed computationally to reveal patterns, trends, associations, and other things that we cannot, as human beings, otherwise find. So big data is the kind of data that Facebook is collecting, Google is collecting, Apple is collecting, through our mobile phones. And there's so much other data being collected. Right now it's through mobile phones, but later it's going to start being collected through other things called IoT, and we'll look at that in a minute, and will be analyzed by AI, artificial intelligence, and give us an amazing insight into ourselves and into our world and into our possibilities. So those 5 technological foundations are already there. We already have big data, we already have cloud, we already have mobile, social, and the internet. Now let's look at the spiritual foundations. We are becoming connected. Have you noticed that? We're already connected, technologically, but I'm talking about connected as a species. We are starting to feel like we are all one planet. Look at what coronavirus has made us to do. We're all collaborating on the internet. We're all sharing information. We're all we have this idea that we're all in this together. And when any one of us detects like something fishy going on, let's say with in terms of like, where did this virus come from, or what does it mean? We're all sharing this information together as well, So there's this connectedness that goes beyond technology. We are feeling as one united earth to an extent, much bigger extent than we used to 20 years ago. So there's that sense of a unity, oneness, connectedness. We're also awakening, this idea of being woke. So we're being woke to what's going on really in the world, what's going on in the governments, what's going on with companies, what's going on with different agendas, with media. We are also waking up spiritually, okay? So informationally, we're becoming less blind, but spiritually also becoming less blind. We're waking up to our humanity. And then there are energy shifts that are happening on the planet today that are making, you can feel them, and some of us can feel them more than others. The energy is shifting. The mass consciousness is shifting. The spirit of the earth, you could say, is shifting. So that's another thing that's another foundation that's going to really help. Now let's look at the innovation accelerators. Now this is going to get a bit heavy. So bear with me, but what the hell, we're talking about a decade. So a few minutes out of your day to understand a decade, it's really worth it, right? So what are the innovation accelerators? And just real quick, just so you can sort of get a bearing of where we are, we've looked at technology and spiritual foundations. Now we're looking at the innovation accelerators, okay? Now, the first accelerator is what we're calling a materials revolution. The way we understand materials, the building blocks of our physical universe, whether it's construction materials or clothing or whatever, is changing. It's already changing already. And over here we've got, I'll give you some examples of material revolutions that are already happening and will accelerate even further. Biomaterials. These are biological or synthetic substances which can be introduced into body tissue as part of an implanted medical device or otherwise, maybe to replace an organ or to replace a body function or to enhance a body function, the idea of a superwoman or a superman or something. Biomaterials are already happening, Then you got graphene. Graphene has emerged as one of the most promising nanomaterials because of its unique combination of superb properties, It's not only one of the thinnest, but also one of the strongest materials ever. Okay, it conducts heat better than all other materials. It is a great conductor of electricity. It is optically transparent, yet it is extremely dense, and it can be used for a wide variety of uses. Okay, then we got things like flexible solar cells, and that adds. I mean, can you imagine solar cells that are flexible? Right now, we know of the really solid ones that you got to put on the roof of your house, but think of tiny little flexible ones that can go on your hat, on all sorts of materials. It's an amazing concept. Hemp is a very interesting thing because It was banned through a very sort of, I call it a heist. The process through which, if you trace history, through which hemp was banned, you know, is very fishy. Hemp was if you look at history, hemp was the first $1 billion crop. It could make 50,000 products. In history, hemp was the primary ingredient used for all sorts of materials and fibers and medicines. You know, the United States Constitution is written on hemp paper. You know what I mean? It's an incredible thing. But it was sort of, I say, illegally banned because hemp, by the way, if you smoke hemp, it looks like marijuana, but it cannot get you high. It doesn't have the THC levels required to get you high. Yet it was banned because it looks like marijuana, which can get you high because it has a higher THC level. And so it was banned in the pretext of, you know, saving the public health, but it's actually healthy for us. And the reason why it was banned is because with hemp, you cannot have a plastics industry. Plastics is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And if you have hemp, plastics go. A lot of pharmaceuticals go. A lot of fibers go, you know? So 3 industries that are multi-billion-dollar industries today would not exist as they do if hemp was made legal. And yet it is the most bio-friendly product in the world that has so many uses. You can even make aeroplanes out of hemp. Like the entire plane can be made out of hemp except the engine block and the glass, you know, on the windshield. So it's an amazing, amazing whatever. And we're going to see that coming back. We've already started to see countries legalizing the growth of industrial hemp. Countries such as Thailand, you know, have started to do that. So, you know, this is going to go somewhere. Then we got metamaterials. A metamaterial is any material engineered to have a property that is not found in naturally occurring materials. So in other words, man-made and amazing. So that's coming up already. Nanomaterials are extremely small, and that gives them a very wide variety of uses that we otherwise don't have access to right now. We're already seeing rechargeable metal air batteries. These are light, they're compact, and they have grid scale energy storage. Grid scale, so not like mobile phone scale, not like Tesla car scale, but grid scale storage capacity. Okay, we've got recyclable carbon fiber composites. We've got ultra thin silicon circuits. Now these are tiny circuits that can be used in lighter and thinner devices, and these devices can have mechanical flexibility, and therefore they're capable of providing very high physical and computational performance. So this revolution is already happening. We've got the energy revolution, okay? We are going to abandon fossil fuels. Oil and gas are literally dinosaurs, and also figuratively dinosaurs in the fact that this is technology that could have been wiped out 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, okay? I mean, there's so many replacements. We can have power from magnetics. We can have power from, there's so many alternative options. Anyways, doesn't matter. This is not what this video is about. What I'm going to say is that we're going to find a renewed interest in renewable energy. But beyond renewable energy, and wind, solar, whatever, beyond that, we're going to look at massive advances in in energy generation, storage, and distribution. We're going to look with people are already talking about something called the energy internet, okay? And then we're going to also start looking at free energy. Now, I put that in quotes, but free energy means the environment around you, the air around you, contains more than enough energy to power your home, your car, your neighborhood. We have so much energy around us. Our problem is not that we don't have energy, it's the technology to tap it. You can tap energy out of the ethers, okay, with the right technologies. And that brings us to the release of suppressed patents. The Federation of American Scientists lists more than, or doesn't list, but has a record of more than 5,000 patents. Very high-tech patents that have been acquired by the military-industrial complex and the secretive arms of various governments, and suppressed in the name of, in quotes, national security. whatever that means, a lot of it means that if these technologies are released, the world would be free, and, certain powers wouldn't have the ability to do what they currently do. So these suppressed patents already exist. These technologies already exist. They're going to start being released. We'll see that happening over time. And I'm about to show you why that will start to happen. So if you hang around with this presentation, you'll start to see that coming through. And also we're going to find the release of top secret technologies. Now, these are different from suppressed patents. Top secret technologies, where do they come from? Now, all over the world, we've got money that goes into corporations that create and invent things that we have no knowledge about. We don't know what they're doing. Okay, for example, look at this coronavirus. Some people say, oh, it came naturally because somebody ate a bat in a market. Obviously, that's a cover-up story. Technically, scientifically speaking, you cannot have viruses jumping from one species to the other within such a short period of time. It could happen, but it would take ages, and not in the way this has happened. So there's a lot of human intervention in this. And this is an example of a technology that was built without our knowledge, and it escaped, and it's now hurting us. But when you look at the true scale of these secret technologies, it will blow your mind. And I'm talking about, let me give you an example. In the United States, for example, we have something called the Black Budget, okay? In the 1940s, they started a program whereby money would be allocated to the military-industrial complex, to certain defense contractors, for them to create certain technologies which, by law, Congress cannot ask about, Senate cannot ask about, even the United States President cannot ask about. Even the CIA and the FBI have no idea what these are. Very few people have access to these. That was the point of building this program. Now that they have no idea what these defense contractors built with this money, but obviously it built things from the 1940s to today. How many years are those? 80 years with billions of dollars and the most high-tech facilities to create things that you do not announce to the world. So just to put it in perspective, the technologies that you are aware of, the most advanced phone that you can imagine today in your hand is not the latest on the planet. It's probably using technologies that are 100 years or a few hundred years old. That is a scale of stuff that exists that we don't know about. Now, if you think I'm crazy saying these things, just look at Google patents, type in US Navy, and look at the latest patents that the US Navy has been filing. They include some very space-age Star Trek stuff, including what looks like an alien reproductive vehicle. In other words, a vehicle that operates as what we know of in the movies as a UFO. This is a patent that was issued by the US government to the United States Navy. You can look at it, verify it, and it's got technologies that are space age. And that is what they're willing to expose. Imagine what they're not willing to expose. All these, when exposed, are going to catapult the world into an era that you cannot imagine. Now let's look at more normal stuff. We got 3D printing and manufacturing, okay? 3D printing, or otherwise known as additive manufacturing, is a process of making three-dimensional solid objects from a digital file. You can make anything from a tiny object to a motorcycle or even a house. You can print a house with a 3D printer. So this is very exciting stuff, and it's going to grow because people are starting to realize we cannot just keep importing everything from China. I'm not trying to knock China, but it's just basics, right? First of all, that is a risky supply chain to just depend on one country for everything, okay? It just places everybody in a place of certain risk. Secondly, it's bad for the environment. Keep shipping things across the oceans and dropping containers and polluting the ocean and everything. So the idea of every home having a little device that can print a whole wide range of things. So all they have to do is download the plan, put the little gels or whatever, the liquids in the printer, the 3D printer, and then press go, and it prints a product. It's very, very interesting, and that's going to grow. Artificial intelligence is also going to accelerate our innovation. AI, machine learning, which is like its sort of cousin, those are already growing. Blockchain. The blockchain is a game changer. In its simplest terms, a blockchain can be described as a data structure, so like a database that holds records in such a way that they're indestructible, they're fully transparent, and they're decentralized, meaning no one company or country or government owns that database. It's kind of like owned by the whole internet. And as long as the internet is running, that database is running. Nobody can corrupt it, hack it. You can't. Unless you turn off the whole internet, you cannot mess up this database. So that gives us a lot of opportunities. That's what Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies run on. That's why they are currency that is working and issued that does not depend on a bank or a government, doesn't need a bank or a government, and cannot be stopped by a bank or a government. That's a very simple example of what the blockchain does, okay? Cool. So we've got cognitive systems, and that refers to systems that, computing systems that learn. They can scale their learning. In other words, they can learn by themselves and grow. They can reason with a purpose, just like a human being, and they can interact with human beings naturally. Okay, so this is sort of like the opposite of a computer that has been explicitly programmed. Think of a computer that can learn and reason from its interaction with human beings and from its experiences with its environment. So that's the difference. The difference between AI kind of like looks at human thinking and then figures out how to solve very complex problems. So it kind of like focuses on accurately reflecting reality and providing accurate results. So AI is very different from a cognitive computer, which sort of focuses on mimicking human behavior and reasoning. Okay, so this is sort of a difference there. Maybe it doesn't mean so much to you, but whatever. Okay, then we got the Internet of Things. This is a very huge area. Now, the Internet of Things is simply a network of internet-connected objects. Okay, so objects that are, think of sensors in your car, sensors on your body, sensors on your watch, on your phone. Your phone and your watch already have sensors today. Sensors on the road, sensors in the air, sensors in the building. So sensors everywhere, okay? All those, and also your fridge, your computer, your television, all those things interconnected with the internet, and then they all share data, okay? They all share data, all these different devices and machines and everything and other things that have been planted on animals and people and so on. They all share data and they interact with each other without requiring a human to human or human to computer interaction. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That these objects use the internet themselves and figure out what to do with it themselves without a human being getting in that equation. Okay, so the Internet of Things is like, think of it as a huge, massive railroad connecting everything. Okay, things, everything, everything from big things like planes and trains and ticket machines and blah, to weather reading things, to small little things like little sensors in your fridge, everything. So that's already there. It's already growing. Then you got nanotechnology, you got robotics. And so that kind of covers the innovation accelerators, materials, energy, release of technologies, and then, these other ones. Cool. So we've covered that. Now let's look at what those innovation accelerators are going to create in terms of next generation industry. So now we've covered the technological foundations, the spiritual foundations, and now we're looking at the innovation accelerators and what kind of industries they're going to create. So these are kind of industries that they're going to create. Artificial general intelligence, artificial narrow intelligence, also known as weak AI, and artificial super intelligence. For those of you who are interested in knowing the difference, it's actually not part of this video, so I'm not going to go into the difference, but AI is actually delineated into 3 different kinds. Okay, so those are the 3 different kinds of AI industries that are going to grow. Just real quick, though, I can't help myself. Super intelligence means AI that is way cleverer than a human being. Artificial general intelligence is sort of AI that is roughly at the same level as a human being. And artificial narrow intelligence, or weak AI, is AI that focuses on just one task. For example, facial recognition. Okay, on Facebook, right? Everybody knows that Facebook recognizes faces. So that's an example of AI, weak AI, because it just focuses on one thing. Okay, or Siri, or Ask Google, or Ask Siri. This is a weak AI. Cool. Then we're going to see the automation of everything. We're going to see autonomous vehicles. We're going to see a circular economy, more and more of that, which is kind of very good for the environment because it kind of sort of promises almost 100% recyclables. And it's going to grow especially well with materials such as hemp. We're going to see the connected car. We're going to see connected healthcare. Then we're going to see decentralization of everything. And that's very important because one of the reasons why we have problems today is because of hierarchies, because of the pyramid structure of society. Everything is centralized and then you got a small little 1% elite controlling the 99% of everybody. So the pyramid structure is part of the problem of society today. And now we have technologies such as blockchain, 3D manufacturing, and others that we're going to see that are going to lead to the decentralization of everything, which, as you can imagine, also changes politics and economics in a last massive way. But that's going to come whether the powers like it or not because of the enabling technologies that we have and the waking up of consciousness. And we're going to see democracy 2.0 or other governance alternatives. We are already seeing that democracy is failing because a planet is too big. When democracy was invented by the Greeks way back, a representative, an elected official, personally knew his or her constituent members. They knew it, because at the time of the Greeks, the planet had maybe less than 30 or 10, less than 5 million people. The whole planet, not just in Greece. I'm talking about the whole planet. So Greece had a very tiny population. Like the city of Athens probably had a few 100,000 people, maybe. I don't remember, but it wasn't much. So a representative personally knew the people that were representing. Those people could personally go to that guy's house and tell them, this is what we want, and if you don't do it, this is what we're going to do with you. But now we've lost that. Now democracies are fast because, we get to be given a couple of people. Every 4 years we're given 2 people. Hey, choose this person or that person, or maybe that person. And then we vote for people that have sort of been presented from us. We don't even know them. And then they go do whatever they want. And they serve other constituencies that are not elected, such as, lobby groups, multinationals, so they serve other people's needs and not necessarily the needs of the people who elected them. So democracy has been proven to have failed now because of the population size we've got, and it's actually creating a corporatocracy. That's what democracy right now does. It creates a corporatocracy, and tiny elite ruling everybody through different ways. So we're going to find a push for a new way of running things. Then we've got the empowerment economy. Basically, this thing of leaving some behind, the rich get richer, poor get poorer. That's kind of creating very serious tensions in the world, and they cannot go on forever. The energy internet, we mentioned it before. The energy internet is coming in a big, big, big way. So we already have the information internet. Think now the energy internet. So instead of moving information through the internet, we'll be moving energy through the internet. Well, through something that looks like the internet, but for energy. And we're going to see a lot of healthy life extension. Okay, we're going to see human-machine convergence. We're going to see a version of humans 2.0, which is, let's not get into that right now in this presentation. We're going to see a logistics internet, a maker economy. That's very much linked to the whole 3D printing thing. Money 2.0. The current financial system, first of all, it has a lot of inequities. It's got a lot of problems. And right now, because of all the printing of money, all the quantitative easing and all the money that has been printed because of coronavirus, the debt levels and everything, we can't fix. It's a system that is designed to collapse anyways. It's a system that is designed to have debt that cannot be repaid anyways. That's part of its systemic design. But now it's reached its limits. So when that breaks down, we're going to see a new definition of money. And I dare say cryptocurrencies, because of their ability to be programmed, are very much a future of Money 2.0. And other things are going to be a feature of Money 2.0, but I would bet cryptocurrencies are going to be a big part of that. Maybe not the current cryptocurrencies, maybe a next generation of better cryptocurrencies that have been better designed and all that sort of stuff. But definitely cryptocurrencies are going to be huge. Maybe not the current ones. I'm not saying Bitcoin is the future of money forever. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying cryptocurrencies are. Maybe not the current ones. Then we're going to see next generation education. We've already said and seen previously in this presentation how a current generation was designed to serve the industrial era, to produce people to get into factories. It won't serve us coming. I mean, just think of all the crap that we've been learning in school and look at what we've been mentioning now as the next generation industries. Does that sound like the education system today can serve this new way where we're going? No, that's gone. It's a dinosaur. It's gone. It's already too late for it. We're going to find radical life extension. There's a lot of interesting things happening in that space. We're going to see a sharing economy. And I dare say, and I'm going to actually add it here, sharing economy, maybe even resource-based, which is a kind of deviation from the monetary-based economy. So it doesn't wipe out money, but it starts to go into a very different idea rather than just pure capitalism. Capitalism cannot work for life. It's already killing our planet. Sooner or later, it's going to, it doesn't matter that coronavirus made us stop what we're doing today. Something was going to make us stop what we're doing today, living the way we are. Because it can't go forever. We can't keep eating the planet until it cannot support us anymore. That's a stupid thing. So we're gonna have to get out of capitalism as we know it today. It was good for what it brought us, but it's also reached its limits. We'll find smart cities. Singapore is already leading the way in that. We're gonna find a smart grid, smart homes, and again, spiritual sciences are gonna grow even bigger, even way bigger than we've imagined. We're going to discover things that we never thought were possible. Okay? So spiritual sciences are a massive growth area. They'll penetrate everything. The health industry, they'll penetrate everything. Spiritual sciences are just going to be big. Now, before we wrap up the new industries, I just want to mention that the United Nations has 17 goals and 169 targets to track those goals. And the United Nations goals, they were adopted unanimously by 193 heads of state and other top leaders at a summit at the UN headquarters in New York in September of 2015. And these are goals to wipe out poverty, to fight inequality, and tackle climate change. And they're very, very, very interesting. They address the needs of people in both developed and developing countries, and they emphasize the fact that no one should be left alone. Okay? They address social development, economic development, and environmental development. And this is something that a lot of countries have signed on. And I think when you combine them with these new next generation industries, it's very, and the foundations and everything we've seen, we're going to see a lot of, these are areas you can get into that we know the whole world has committed to heading towards. So that's very interesting. Now that we've finished that, let's look at the three biggest threats that come with these new technologies, especially things like AI. That's a very, 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 very serious thing that we need to tread carefully with. Now, the first threat is if we just, as citizens of the world, allow corporations or companies to control the legislation and the narrative as to what these new technologies are going to be used for. Okay, we have this idea, and before we get into the idea, so that's the first threat, allowing corporations to control the narrative and legislation. Second threat is relying on the nanny government to determine our fate. Okay, relying on nanny government to determine our fate. Let's talk about those two together, corporations and nanny government. In the past, we've sort of had this very naive idea that the government is our nanny. It's there to look after our interests, and it will do just that. Truth be told, it has looked after some of our interests, but it's not there to look after all our interests. There are a lot of powers and forces that use government to do things that are against our interests. everything from banning the like, think about it. People go to school and we learn about everything except money. Money is not taught in schools, yet we are taught to go to school so we can earn money, but we're not taught money in schools. It's actually illegal to teach money in schools, which is kind of weird, right? And a lot of legislations just don't make sense. A lot of legislations are just like there to protect. They harm the environment and they harm people, especially chemical and pharmaceutical and those kind of legislations. They harm the environment and they're harming human beings, and they're protecting the companies that are actually creating this harm. So the idea that the government is your nanny and you can just go to bed and sleep and it's going to look after your affairs to the best of your interests is naive. It doesn't work like that. That's not the truth of the way things are. Okay? And also just saying, let's just trust corporations to also do things in the best of our interests. We also know that's rubbish. It doesn't work like that. We have to get off this idea. And we've already made mistakes. Let me mention a few things where we've made mistakes in this regulation. We already mentioned power of hemp and how we let that, be taken away from us way back. We already know how banking right now is just out of control, Banking is out of control. The bankers crashed the system in 2008. And what happened to them? Did they get punished for it? No, they were rewarded with bailouts. They got richer for crashing the system for everybody else. We already know that Big Pharma has done a lot of dodgy things. Big Pharma. We already know that Food Inc., with all the weird food that it creates, has done a lot of dodgy things because we just let it happen, okay? We know that big data is being collected by the giants like Facebook and Google, and we kind of hope they're going to use it to our advantage, but we've seen examples where that data has been sold to our disadvantage, okay? The military-industrial complex and all the wars it has started. Let me ask you, do you know anybody who wants to start a war? I don't know anybody who wants to start a war. There's no time that the people of one country look at the people of the other country and go, oh yeah, we need a war. They never say that. The people who start it are, like a small little group of people that keep bringing new war, and every decade there's a new war. But it's not the populations that are asking for these wars. It's the military-industrial complex, because we let them. You know what I mean? We're, like Elon Musk says, we're already making huge mistakes with AI, letting these companies do whatever they want. Elon Musk has been trying to warn us against it until he's decided to join them. If you can't fight them, join them. But for the longest, he's been saying, don't let these guys just do whatever they want with AI. It'll come to a point where that gene will leave, get out of the bottle, and there's no way of putting it back in once it's out. We've got a problem with 5G. 5G, a lot of people think that it's a conspiracy. It's not. The term conspiracy theory is a shaming tool. Okay? So when you hear people saying, people who's trying to stop 5G, they're just conspiracy theorists, that is a shaming tool being applied to them. The point about 5G, and you can see very top executives, even from Microsoft, former Microsoft executives saying this, the problem with 5G is that it operates at a frequency level that is way too high for biological material. Human beings, animals, pets, plants. 5G operates at a frequency that destroys DNA and cellular structure. It's kind of like putting your hand in a microwave. Would you put your hand in a microwave? That's what we're talking about when you're talking about 5G. And we're kind of like letting it happen, So this really has to stop. And then the third danger is allowing technology itself to overtake our own wisdom and our spirituality. That's how societies destroy themselves, when they allow their technology to overtake their spirituality and their wisdom. There have been societies in our history, pre-Adamite societies, that have destroyed themselves through, all sorts of stuff, like the legends of Atlantis, the tales in the Mahabharata, civilizations that are ancient, that we have no history, no record of them anymore because they're self-destructed, So we've got an opportunity and a risk over there. Cool, so let's go back to our overview, and the next thing that we're going to be looking at is the 31 areas of massive change potential.